Hey YouTubers, it's Charlie. This is going to be my Arrow Episode 3 SummerSlam rematch video. Careful for spoilers if you haven't seen it yet, but it's basically like the thing that inspired this t-shirt that I wear all the time. So here we go. So it was a pretty solid episode. It was really, like the fun part was the SummerSlam rematch. Cody Rhodes versus Stephen Amell. Stephen Amell was going crazy with all the wrestling stuff that they got to put into this, like all the real life stuff that happened between them, between meeting Cody Rhodes in sort of like the rivalry they developed and how that culminated in SummerSlam. So that was really only part of the episode, but then you have the Deadshot WTF, so I'll explain that whole bunch of comic book stuff. So top 10 WTF and Easter eggs, here we go. Number 10, Cody Rhodes is Samson on Arrow. He's part of the Arrowverse now, and they didn't kill him at the end of the episode, so he's recovering somewhere in a hospital prison, but Samson isn't quite the same as Samson, the actual comic book character, so I think he's just an original character they created for the show. And Stephen Amell said he did like an amazing job behind the scenes, Cody Rhodes did, so they'll probably try to have him back if they can. If you're a big wrestling fan, I don't know if Cody is using this to stage a big comeback in the WWE because he quit being Stardust, but like that's the number 9. The drug that he's manufacturing and selling is called Stardust. It's supposed to be 10 times worse than Vertigo, but I guess it makes you super chill because that's what like the one Thug tells Oliver. Sounds like you need some, man, you need to chill. But number 8, Cody takes a bath in the Stardust mixture, Joker style, gets himself a full-blown comic book origin story. So number 7, next new character on the list, Susan Williams, who's a reporter for Channel 52. They're actually like doing something with Channel 52. It's not just background noise anymore. So she is a character from the Green Lantern comics. She was married to Hal Jordan's brother in the comics, and they had a child together. There was a long period where she was obsessed with outing him as Green Lantern, but then she learned that it was actually Hal Jordan. So they might be doing that on Arrow, where she tries to figure Green Arrow things out. But I don't think they're allowed to say Hal Jordan's name. But expect some Green Lantern Easter eggs across the season with her character. But we met her, she'll get some scenes with Oliver eventually. You can see already that she's not a super nice person, but we'll see if she has any chemistry with Oliver. I don't know, they might have some fun with that. But number 6, meet Adrian Chase, another new character who is the new district attorney. He's a comic book character. His name is, get this, Vigilante. He was created by Marv Wolfman. There was actually like an image of him in that first episode when they were doing mugshots. This is what his comic book character looks like. In the picture was actually drawn brand new by Marv Wolfman so that they could use it in the episode. But Mark Guggenheim did say that they were taking him in a very comic booky direction. Like they're assuming that people read the comics when it comes to his character's storyline, and they're rolling hard on it in episode 7. But the interesting thing about that is that he did not say that they're turning him into Vigilante, because the way Adrian Chase in the episode explains it, he and Oliver have history together going back at least 12 years. Oliver cock-blocked him and took one of his girlfriends, so it sounds like he didn't like Oliver very much. So whatever their relationship is going to be, it's going to be pretty interesting. But part of me felt like they were teasing some Prometheus stuff. Like Prometheus has history with Oliver going back to season 1. Adrian Chase has history with Oliver going way, way back. And Prometheus's beef with the Green Arrow makes it sound like Prometheus knows that Oliver is the Green Arrow. So there are just a couple people that make that list, like Tommy's on the list. And while I'm not convinced that Adrian Chase could be Prometheus, I'm just going to be watching their scenes together and the dialogue that they have very closely. But in the comics, just to explain what happens to the Vigilante character, so he is the district attorney in the comics who becomes a vigilante because he feels like the law isn't helping him take down criminals fast enough. Like he sees criminals using the law to get off scot-free. The court system can't help him, so he becomes a vigilante to take care of them at night. But eventually, he goes off the rails crazy and becomes kind of a villain. So that's kind of why I felt like he would be one of the antagonists this season, but that doesn't guarantee that he'll turn into Prometheus. It just means that he and Oliver will probably be throwing down eventually. But number 5, Felicity comes clean to Ragman about being the person responsible for his home, his family dying. So he just can't handle it. He walks off. Obviously, they're going to deal with it in next week's episode. But this guilt is part of Felicity's arc they explain this season. Like dealing with this this first part of the season, then eventually it'll spin into something else. They haven't really said, but it's like a character-based arc, so I don't know how comic booky it's going to get in the back half. But I always felt like a fun arc for Felicity would be, like she loves her team, like her family here so much that she would go way overboard and do like a Tony Stark Ultron type thing where she creates something to try and help them, but it goes way sideways and becomes this big problem. But number 4, speaking of blowing up in your face, Cody Rhodes versus Stephen Amell, round 2. There were really like 2 big fights between them in this episode. There was the first one where Oliver tries to take him down in the hospital. The second big one, my number 3, was actually a pretty good wrestling match. If you're a big fan of wrestling, you might notice some chokeholds, even some of like the way they punched each other, like the stunts were engineered that Cody had, felt very much like the kind of stuff that you would see in a wrestling match. So they did a lot of slow-mo, like the way they filmed it was a little bit different. Stephen Amell said like behind the scenes, they got really excited. Like they tried to do things in a way that they had not done them before. So there's a lot more slow motion stuff like this season. But I did like the logic behind the takedown. You might not be able to feel your tendons being sliced, but that doesn't mean that you don't need them. So it kind of winds up being like this Deadpool versus Colossus fight, where Deadpool just like smashes all of his limbs trying to fight Colossus, just flopping around like a Tyrannosaurus Rex. All the dinosaurs were afraid of the T-Rex. But number 3, Bratva initiation. The episode was all about trusting your team, even if that wasn't necessarily a good thing or didn't seem like a good thing. That was the whole message of the flashbacks. The Bratva are very bad people, but Oliver needs them to take on Kovar, and then like you kind of learn through like the side mission that they go on that they actually do give justice to people who can't get it through traditional means. So it's not all bad, even though it's still pretty shady. But I felt like the joke of this is like they'll slice him up and then just like douse him in lemonade. Just thousands of really deep paper cuts and then just throw him in a lemonade bath. Let's just see how much terrible fraternity initiation stuff that we can make Oliver go through. But as you can see, now that he is part of the Bratva, they can get onto the Kovar stuff. The whole point of this is in him gaining this brotherhood to take Kovar on. They can make a beeline for Ivan Drago and have their like He-Man Rocky IV fight. Number 2, of course, you guys probably sensed that I was building to this. Deadshot is back. Or is he? Everybody, like during the episode when he first appeared, everyone's like, oh my god, this is so amazing. How did this happen? Is it Flashpoint? What's the deal? So then later when we learned that Diggle just hallucinated him, he's tripping balls in prison, Deadshot is still dead. Big bummer. So there was like the whole spectrum of Suicide Squad Deadshot in this episode. The way Mark Guggenheim explained it afterwards is that comic book characters in general are a case-by-case basis, especially characters that are in the movies right now. So what happens is when they want to use a Suicide Squad character, they have to pitch DC, and in this case, it just happened to be Jeff Johns, who like saw the pitch and was like, okay, great. So hand to God, Jeff Johns is like, you are approved, use your Deadshot, sir. So many thanks to Jeff Johns, and number 1, of course, is like the Mr. Terrific backstory. Like they did a hardcore, accurate comic book backstory. Fair play, Terry Sloan, he wears the face paint, and obviously like this is Curtis Holt instead of Michael Holt, because the Mr. Terrific of the comics is more like Diggle. He's this giant dude with huge muscles, so that's probably why they went with the Curtis name. But next week, even more comic book characters. Artemis is going to start using a bow, so by the end of the season, we might see her in a comic book accurate costume. But let me know in the comments, what was your guys' favorite thing from the episode? Like, what do you think is going to happen with Adrian Chase? And do you think we'll ever see Hallucination Deadshot again? He is still alive on Earth 2 because Flashpoint didn't affect Earth 2, so he's still like the bumbling police captain, but I'm not expecting him back anytime soon. But it is fun how they're able to do characters you normally think they would not be able to do. They said that they did that for the 100th episode. Anybody that they could use, had access to, is going to be in that episode. It's episode 8. Even characters that weren't available because of scheduling conflicts, which when he said that, I think Mark Guggenheim was talking about Deathstroke, because we saw the pictures of Deathstroke that Stephen Amell was posting, and Manu Bennett works on like so many other series that his availability is really spotty, so they wanted to use him in the episode as Deathstroke. So we get Deathstroke, but there's like a slight workaround, so expect that for some other big Arrow characters in the 100th episode. But all in all, great episode, and obviously there's a bunch more DC stuff happening tonight because we have Justice Society. So because so much stuff is happening, that video might end up posting tomorrow, but I'll get it out as fast as possible. But it's like a full-blown Justice Society episode. So we'll explain all the characters when I post that. Be sure to subscribe to get that video. There's a round of the DC giveaway that's going on right now. All you have to do to enter is be a subscriber and leave a comment on this video. So next videos will be like cool Doctor Strange stuff that's happening. Kevin Feige confirmed a whole bunch of stuff about Illuminati. So I'll do a Doctor Strange, Illuminati, Avengers Infinity War video. I'll do Justice Society, then I'll do some new Guardians of the Galaxy 2. Slightly new outro. While you guys wait for my next video to post, you can click up top for that Logan Red Band trailer again, and you can click down here for this week's episode of The Flash. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. Let's high five. I'll see you guys tonight.